Hello, this is replacement class for the class that was missed. Right, today we will be learning something not about us, but we're going to learn something about our opponents. Okay, so we're going to learn something about our opponents' plans. Right, we're going to look at our opponent's plan. The title of today's lesson is My Opponent's Plans. Right, so today's lesson will be taken from three different games. Right, three different games, which you can see on the top right, which says three chapters here. Okay, we have the first game between Grandmaster Anish Giri against Grandmaster Garry Kasparov, and then game two we have Magnus Carlsen versus Yuri Polgar, and Bobby Fischer versus Boris Spassky in the third game. Right, all of them are Grandmasters, so I don't have to repeat them six times. Yeah, okay. So in the first game, the first position that we have here, Garry Kasparov, who is a legendary player as well, right? He was actually Magnus Carlsen's um, tutor, you can say, like a mentor. Okay, so so he's a very strong player as well. If you look at his rating, it's 2,800. So he's probably one of the top grandmasters that could even match Magnus Carlsen's rating. Okay, so he's playing against Grandmaster Anish Giri, right? He's well known for drawing games and also stealing pawns, literally chess pieces. He would just take a random pawn or random, I think, random bishop as well. If I'm not mistaken, he would just take it and just put it in his pocket and just leave the tournament. That is probably like after playing the game or after drawing the game, right? So he is also a well-known grandmaster, and here in this game we shall begin our lesson. By the way, Mr. Grandmaster Garry Kasparov played the move pawn to a4. Okay, pawn to a4. So if you were playing white, right, you will look at his move and go like, huh? What is this pawn doing? I'm sort of putting pressure on your knight. I'm planning to put my rooks here or something, maybe double up rooks and stuff like that. And the opponent just goes, boop, pawn a4. So what does pawn a4 do? Does pawn a4 even um, is it even something that is planned, or is it just a filler move? Filler move means like I got nothing to play, so I'm just gonna play a4. Yeah, a4, right? So here, this move a4 is actually not a random pawn move at all. Okay, right? So we have to identify what is Gary's or Kasparov's plan here, right? So Anish Giri here had to figure out that a4 is actually stopping his own plan, which is it's stopping White's plan, right? So White's plan actually is to play the move b4, right? So for example, if you don't play the move a5, let's say you just play something random, right? So here let's say I play pawn b4, right? Let's say takes, and already you can see that after this, let's say takes, you already can see that you kind of helped um you cannot kind of helped white to have this very nice pawn structure. Okay, so one idea that can be played, yeah, is bishop f6. Let's say a random move by black, and now bishop f1 looks like a very weird move also, but the whole idea is to just boop, b5, and the knight is looking very awful here. Of course it can't run here, we just take the knight. If it goes here, that's very weird. It's back to its starting square and it can't even come out, right? So that's also very bad. And also remember, it can't even come here anymore. Why? Because the pawn is here. We just push the pawn here, remember? Okay, so right, let's just remove all the arrows first. Okay, so here let's say something like this is played, g6, and now of course the pawn is hanging, so maybe not g6 but something else. Let's say, I don't know, let's say a bishop here or something like that. And now we can already go e5, and let's say he goes back here, which we haven't discussed. This is a better square for him, of course, right? So this is a better square for him. Like he's going places, is going towards the center at least, right? But once again, these pawns that we have here are looking very nice. Okay, we can sort of make a pass pawn as well. Pass pawn means there are no pawns that can stop that pawn. It's going to be a passer. So for example, let's say blah blah blah. Okay, let's say he plays. Oh wait, it's our turn. Sorry. Let's see. Let's say we play something like this. Let's say he doesn't plan to take, right? And let's say he just goes somewhere weird. Let's say, okay, okay, maybe not that. Maybe somewhere here, right? So now here, and then we can already start thinking of pushing the pawn. Now this becomes a passed pawn. Do you realize that there are no pawns that can stop this pawn, right? So this is called a passed pawn. So for example, now he can't even capture this because we just capture the extra piece. Don't forget, he just gave up two pieces for a random pawn there. Okay, and we only had to give up our knight. Okay, right? So here, Mr. Garry Kasparov, or Grandmaster Garry Kasparov, played the move pawn to a4, right? Just to stop this. Okay, so now I want you to look at the other way as well, right? So we look from Gary's perspective, and here Garry Kasparov had to play the move a4 because he sees his opponent's plan, right? It's not a plan. This is not even considered a plan for black. This is a move you play by thinking or figuring out what your opponent is going to do. Like, saying that, oh, he's going to pawn stomp me, he's going to push all of the pawns here and just destroy me, right? And that's not the thing. No, that's not the move. No, that's not what we want to allow our opponent to play. Okay, simple English, right? So here we play the move a4, and if he plays this, we can actually play n peasant. Do not forget that. Do not forget that move. And after this pawn on a3 will be kind of weak. Kind of weak. Not yet, but probably very soon. Okay. For example, some ideas are maybe we're not going to go too deep into the ideas. It might be a little bit confusing or a little bit too hard, right? So here, for example, let's say he plays something random lah. Oh wait, it's our turn again once again. So let's say he plays something like this, right? And let's say he just trades bishops. Doesn't even matter anymore. And let's say he says, oh, this is a nice file. And here we can already play some ideas of think of some ideas of b6. And if he takes here, then we can actually get the pawn. Okay, so maybe it's a little bit complicated, right? But now of course we can't play this because he just eats the pawn. Okay, right? So that's just a plan. This is just a plan, another plan that we can use to play against our opponent. Okay, right? So that was the first position, right? It was a game between Garry Kasparov and Anish Giri. All right. Okay. So now we will continue to the next game. Continue with the next game, which is a game between Magnus Carlsen, the highest rated player in the world, right? 2843, right? Wonderful. Okay. So he's playing against this. We will recognize her as the strongest female player, right? The strongest women player of all time, right? She's the strongest, she's the greatest, and she has reached a rating of 2700 in this game. I'm not sure what's her peak rating, her highest rating, I'm not too sure. Okay, but she has reached a very, very high rating for a woman grandmaster, right? So in chess we have WGM, which is woman grandmaster, okay, and we also have GM, right? So this grandmaster here has both of them, right? She has hit her woman grandmaster, she has achieved her woman grandmaster title, and she has also managed to get her grandmaster title. Grandmaster title is an open title for both male and female as well. Okay, right? So here against Magnus Carlsen, Judith Polgar, right? That's her name, right? Grandmaster Judith Polgar plays the move knight to e5, right? You'll be like, huh? Double pawns, right? So if I just take this, coach, then this will be double pawns. The rooks will be nice. No. Wait, the rooks. Yeah, it should be good for white, right? It should be like, okay, maybe the rooks are good on d1, let's say, but now it's kind of obvious that it's actually good for black. Okay, but the main point is you want to say that, oh, coach, double pawns not good for him, right? For example, right? So, but that can be one of the lines, right? But the whole point of black playing this, right, is actually this. Okay, when I play the move knight e5, what squares or what pieces do I open up? Okay, before this, the knight was blocking what piece? Number one, the bishop. Anymore? I can say the rook, correct? The bishop and the rook are stuck here and sort of like not looking at anything. So this move does a lot. Okay, let's see. What does it do? Let's see what um, pieces it activates. The bishop, of course, it's attacking this pawn. How about the rook? The rook is attacking this pawn, which is defended only once. How about this? How about this pawn? This pawn here. also once. Okay, right. So I'm going to remove all the arrows and we'll look at it again. Oops, wrong color. Okay, we're going to remove all the arrows. I've done that. Okay, so now when the knight moves, right, do you realize that this pawn is being attacked twice and there's only one defender? That's number one, right? So because we just um, added an, sorry, very messy. Okay, so we just added an attacker to the pawn while revealing or exposing the rook's view onto the pawn. Okay, so very cool move by Judith Polgar, and it does another thing as well. Remember the bishop, or was he looking at the pawn? And you realize that a piece was already attacking before this. Before you jump the knight, this knight was already attacking this pawn, right? So now knight to e5 unleashes a very strong attack because this does two things. Right now the pawn is only defended once, and this pawn is also going to be free, gonna drop already. So here this one move allowed for this pawn to be taken and also this pawn to be taken. Insane. Okay, a very good move by Grandmaster Judith Polgar. So for example, let's say we did just now what we did and this happens, right? So here this would be actually good for black actually. Okay, you might say that but then I don't like double pawns. I think black is not that good. Okay, you might be right, but not entirely right. So why? Because for example, let's say you play something like f3 just to guard the pawns. Okay, example only, yeah. So something like that, but you will realize that you will find it a little bit difficult to fight for this open file. Okay, this open file will be a little bit difficult, and also these pawns are doing quite a great job. The knight can't jump in, right? The knight can't jump in because of the pawn. What else? The bishop is kind of dead, right? Because if you want to put the bishop here or something, you of course you need like a rook or something to protect that square, right? So it doesn't even work now. So none of these can be played, right? So very passive and very sad life for um, Mr. Magnus Carlsen. Yeah. So here Magnus instead saw the idea, right? Of course, it's the highest rated player. He was the longest world champion, reigning world champion. He was champion for 10 years, by the way, world champion. So he was the best player. Actually, he still is the best player by rating. Okay. He saw through Grandmaster Judith Polgar's tricks. He saw that, okay, both of my pawns are hanging, right? Sorry, both of my pawns are hanging. What should I do? What move saves both of my pawns? Okay, I will need to spend some time. What move saves both of these pawns? Okay, and if you need to pause the video for more time, just pause the video if you need more time, okay? Right, so here I'm going to continue the answer. You can pause if you have not suggested a move or thought of a move, right? So here the answer is knight d2, which defends the pawn at least twice, and this is also defended twice, huh? Okay, or queen d4. Okay, queen d4 also guards both of the pawns, and that's all we want. That's all we need actually, right? So if these pawns stay up, right, black doesn't have enough time to attack our pawns. Why? Some of the pieces are not that active yet, for example. So like this rook also can't help up here because of the closed file, right? The lines are not open yet. And here, a simple move like f3 after this will just reduce the number of weak pawns because f3 is a pawn defending a pawn. That's all. Okay, right? So that was just it, right? So you have to be able to create plans, and also you have to see through what your opponent, our opponent is Judith Polgar, and she played a crazy move, right? Like a move that does so many things. But if you don't try to see through what the plan was to just snatch one of the pawns one at a time, right? And also it's also to activate her pieces, right? So if we don't see our opponent's plans, right, then it will be very hard for us to actually find any move actually, right? Because most of the time we do not have a good plan. For example, like we don't have any plan, right? So most players, especially beginner players, we don't have a proper plan, right? Okay, and when you don't have a proper plan, the best plan is to stop your opponent's plan. Okay, just like that. You just have to think what they're going to play. Oh, I'm going to stop that. For example, let's say in a random game, let's say bishop here want to come here lah. So the move will be h3, no, that's all. Correct. You get like a free move, a free idea of a move, just by stopping your opponent's move. That's all. Okay, right? So now we go to the last position, which is a game between Grandmaster Bobby Fischer and Grandmaster Boris Spassky, right? So this is a very, very old game. They, of course, they are not alive anymore, right? This game is played in, I think, like 1900s, right? So over maybe like 60 years ago, maybe not that long, maybe like 40 or something like that. Okay, so very, very long ago. And here, Mr. Bobby Fischer plays a very, very interesting move. Pawn to c4. Okay, it looks very weird, right? You'd be like, coach, why this pawn structure looks very good. It looks very nice, correct? Or not? But we go c4. Not we go, but Bobby Fischer played c4, and the idea, right, is not that it's just to give up a pawn or anything, or to just trade or anything, right? For example, something like this can happen, right? Something like this can happen. Let's say pawn takes, blah blah blah. Oh, sorry, too fast. Knight here, bishop here, and for example, this will be an attack for white. And why white likes this position is because his pieces are so active on the queen side, actually, right? For example, something that can happen here is pawn. Oh, so let's say he plays this one. So something that can happen is pawn to f4, and let's say he just goes back. Do you realize what we can play here? What can white play here? It's a fork. It's a very, 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 very scary fork. So what square can we fork black's pieces? What can white do to black? Right? Okay. Pause the video if you need more time, and I'm going to give you the answer now in three, two, one. Okay, 96. Right? So if you got it correct, excellent. If you didn't get it right, doesn't matter. Okay, we will just continue with our learning. Right? You don't have to get it correct all the time. Okay, it's still a learning process. Okay, so we usually actually remember it more clearly when we get it wrong. All right. Okay, so no problem. Knight to c6. Knight to c6 is a crazy fork. And now we just win the rook. Okay, right? So here the actual reasoning behind this, right? So maybe a little bit difficult, but the actual reason for c4, right, is to actually get something like this, a position like this. Okay, this is called a Maroczy bind. So it's spelled Maroczy. Maroczy bind. Bind as in bind. Okay, you bind something together. Like let's say I take like, I don't know. Okay, let's put one sec. Right. So let's say I have like these two, and then I put like glue in between them. So I'm actually like binding them together, correct? Okay, right? So I'm binding them together. So this is called a Maroczy bind, where everything is kept intact. Intact means to keep them together, something like that. So these pawns are controlling all the important squares, right? While having a knight in the center to look over the pawns. Look over the pawns, and also it's actually guarding kind of the same squares to be honest. And by playing this Maroczy bind, right, you realize that it's actually kind of difficult for black to even open up this whole file, because he just can't really trade this pawn properly, correct? Right? Because if just puts here, we just eat it and we just close up the file again. So we can be quite sure that the knight will remain here for a very long time. Okay, and here you would say that, but coach, he has c5, right? So usually Maroczy binds are actually played in c5, c takes d5, d4, sorry, c takes d4. Okay, so usually the Maroczy binds are from the Sicilian defense. Okay, c5. Okay, so here Morphy, sorry, that's another player. Bobby Fischer uses the same idea, okay, to establish his Maroczy bind as well. Okay, right? So but here, um the other idea, right, is to just annoy the opponent's pawn chain. Okay, so another move that can be played, right, is literally just doing the same thing. Okay, it's a4. Okay, so a4 is actually considered, I'm not sure if it's considered even better than, um okay, let's see, I'm gonna look at the computer. Is a4 better or c4? Okay, it says a4 and c4 are exactly the same. Okay, the exactly, I don't know how to say, as good as each other. Yes, exactly. Right. So they're as good as each other. You're trying to undermine the pawns. Undermine means to sort of like make them okay, if that makes any sense, right? You're just trying to make them mm, not work together, something like that. Okay, from the root, from the root of the pawn chain, for example. You can either attack this pawn, but in this case he's attacking this pawn because of the undefended rook actually. Okay, if you notice that. So for example, let's say something else is played, let's say I don't know, let's say rook to e8, and now I can just take this pawn for free because pawn takes and I just win the whole rook. Okay, right? So once again, right, it's a similar idea, right? It is to undermine the black queen side pawn chain. Black queen side pawn chain, just like that. So we just play this, and if he takes, right, let's say if he says, oh, I'm just going to take. Now, are you sure you want to play this, right? We can play bishop here, and now it's already looking very scary. Okay, looking very scary. We have some pawn storms coming soon. One, two, three, four. Four, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So that was the plan of Mr. Um, Fisher. Sorry. Okay. Right. So this was his plan. Oh, sorry. Okay. This was his plan, and in the game, if I'm not mistaken, the move that was played, I think it was just c6, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, it's just c6 and the end. Yeah. Okay. Right. So just keeping everything intact. So for example, something like this, then you can just get back your pawn structure, and after this, you can play bishop b7 and stuff like that. Okay. Right. So and here, if you want to have some extra idea, so if this is played, this might not be very very good for you because of knight here, because the pawn was actually guarding this square. Go here and knight here, and it's a little bit. You know what I mean? The knight is gonna be here for quite a while, and there's a double attack on the pawn. I don't like that. Okay. All right. So that was today's lesson. I hope you learned something today. Okay. And I think I will end it here so that you guys, so that you will not feel um, bored and sort of lose attention in class, right? So videos a little bit boring sometimes, okay, because I can't speak to you. I hope you enjoy the guess the move ideas, okay. So I think that's about it for today's class, and I will see you again in the next class. Okay, right, that's all. Bye bye.